Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Jonathan Green, author of the Serve No Master series. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Paul.
Well, Jonathan, we're thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
Absolutely.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Most important thing you can do is plan what's going to happen after you push that upload button. So many authors, we get caught up in that, I've just got to finish this book, that we think that's the end of the process. And then we upload it to the platform, we get the different copies and editions of the book out there, only to discover that it's just the beginning. That the writing isn't nearly as important as the marketing, as getting it out there. And the two important things is to say, what is your strategy for selling the book? How are you going to get copies out into the world? And number two, what is your strategy for making revenue? Which are two different things, because one of the rude awakenings many authors discover is that when you're getting a really low royalty, or you're getting a small part of $7, $8, or $10 a sale, it doesn't add up unless you're selling thousands of units, which takes a lot of marketing, which means you have to put money into marketing. So it's hard to have massive profitability with just one book. If you're in nonfiction, I really encourage you to think about selling coaching or courses or training behind your book, so you have a monetization strategy. And if you're in fiction, it's really all about that series. So you have to start thinking about that now. So you go, oh, if I'm going to write a series, I'll plan to end the book in a way that leads to a series. But if you're not planning on a series, switching a book that has a hard ending into a series, that usually doesn't work.
Well, I love that you mentioned that, specifically about nonfiction versus fiction and the different ways that you can monetize it. And the fact is, with nonfiction, it's always about the back end, but with fiction, it's all about those series.
Absolutely. While you can generate some revenue, like people do buy multiple books for my Serve No Master series, probably 90% of people who buy one of my books buy a second book. But it's very hard to get someone to buy like 20 books in a row on the same nonfiction topic, whereas there are vampire series that have more than 70 books in them. So the way people engage with fiction and nonfiction is different, so we adapt to the market and what the consumer, the customer, the reader wants.
Absolutely. And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I think the hardest part is switching from the creator to the marketer mindset, because sales is very, very different, and it can feel weird, or it can feel sleazy, or it can feel uncomfortable. Trying to convince people to buy your book, you have to 100% believe that it's the best book ever written, that it's amazing. It's hard to feel that way because you're not sure when it's something new. So going out there and knowing that people might give a bad review or might not like the book, and all of that while you're trying to push it and promote it and do things that are scary, whether it's paying for advertising, whether it's trying to get on blogs and podcasts, whether it's trying to get your name out there in all these different ways, whether you can do like radio interviews and PR campaigns and blog tours, all of these things that you can do. They're hard to know. It's hard to know which one is right for you and which one will get you the best results, because some people are very uncomfortable on podcasts but are amazing in blog interviews, and vice versa. And then you have to find what you're comfortable doing and what will generate you the best. For every successful campaign I've run to increase book sales or generate more buzz, 5 or 6 haven't worked. So it really is knowing I got to just keep trying different things, and to know that not everything works on the first try. It's not about getting it right on the first try, because nobody does. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. It's about sticking with it and trying over again and trying different ideas and pivoting until you find that big win for you.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Yeah, the best strategy, in my opinion, right now is to run what I call a review campaign, which is where I just focus on getting a ton of reviews for my book. And there are a lot of like software tools that can help you do this. Usually I say to my audience, or I post it anywhere you can get a little attention. Instead of sending people to my book directly, I'll send people to a landing page that says, hey, I'm giving away 50 free copies of this book. and I'm just going to ask you for a review after you read it. And if I give away 50 copies, I can get sometimes 35 reviews out of that, whereas any other review method I've ever used doesn't work. But when they get it that way, they know it's a limited edition. They know I'm going to ask for a review. And then I send a follow-up email every week for 4 weeks, because that's about how long it takes people to read the book. I get those really, really great numbers, and then I say, oh, thank you so much for that review. They send me the review via email. I say, can you copy and paste it to these 3 websites? Same review on like the Google Play Store. You get on iTunes or iBooks, or always change the name of their bookstore, and Amazon, and you get a lot more play, because one review can easily generate 10 to 100 sales, and it really generates momentum. That's a much more valuable use of a limited resource than trying to just generate 50 sales, because those 50 sales might get you 50 sales, but if you get 50 people to a free copy of your book, you get 30 reviews, that can generate 300 sales or more.
Excellent. And I love the fact that you mentioned, too, that you're having them do reviews in 3 different areas. So it wasn't just about getting that Amazon review. It was also about getting iTunes and also with Google Play as well. So you really are hitting up the best of all 3 worlds, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in going wide now. While I was exclusive to Amazon for a really, really long time, and that was cool for a while, in nonfiction especially, people don't really use Kindle Unlimited as much as they do in fiction, which is the value of exclusivity. And I saw that only about 10% of my revenue was from Kindle Unlimited over the past 2 years, and that's why I said I'm going to go wide, because I'm sure I can get more than 10% of my sales on these other marketplaces, and that has shown to be true with my recent numbers.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
My favorite book of all time?
Yep.
Oh, Ender's Game. That book is so good.
Nice. So why is that book?
I love the book. I love the movie.
Yep.
Because it's the best twist that's ever been in a book that I've ever read. It's so well done, and it's so good, and it's so in depth that it just shows how you can get pulled into a really, really simple concept. And if you read that book and then you watch The Matrix, which is like one of the most popular movies the last 50 years, you go, oh, that's where they got the idea. Also, when I watched the movie, that was the first time I told my wife that I loved her, because I was so emotional about the movie. I was like, this is so amazing. And I go, wait, I didn't mean that. And she goes, no take-backs. So I couldn't take it back.
Nice. And then for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote, I have a couple of favorites, but I'll go with, I really love this quote from Sun Tzu that's all warfare is based on deception. And in my head, I say all marketing or all business is based on perception. So, for example, it's not about whether or not you're a best-selling author, because people can't tell. No one knows the difference between Amazon best-selling author, USA Today best-selling author, and New York Times best-selling author. To us, people on the inside, there's a significant difference. We know that it's different number of book sales, and that you can be an Amazon bestseller in a week in a small category or a popular category by selling 10 books in one day. But to anyone outside, it looks the same. There's a 1% difference. That's perception. So the way people see you comes from how you present yourself. So if you act like you're a best-selling author, if you present yourself as a successful speaker, even if you've only sold 1 book and you've only been given 1 talk, then people will treat you that way. And that's kind of that idea of fake it till you make it. But if you believe in yourself and you project that belief, then people will respond to that, and you can affect reality. So I believe all marketing is based on perception.
Reminds me of that movie Boiling Room, when Ben Affleck's character is talking about act as if. It's that same exact concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jonathan, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show today. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Sure. Head over to servenomaster.com, and you can just Google Serve No Master. Every single result is me. It's my blog, my podcast, my website, or my book.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.